Well, hello there all you absolutely magnificent people, and welcome back to another episode of an Ecologist Plays, where we talk about nature while playing games. We are back in StarRupture, this awesome new game that released into early access recently. And while last time we survived another Ruptura event, or another rupture from the sun up there. So we are in a relatively alright space. I mean, we are running around now at the moment, no resources whatsoever, but the world is recovering after this Ruptura event that happened now. And we are going to hopefully soon see some things developing. And today we are going to chat about how on earth the creatures and the plants actually survive on Arcadia 7, considering the Ruptura events that happen relatively frequently.
The Ruptura is in its stable stage. The climate of Arcadia is returning to normal.
Well, that is perfect. That means we are at least going to see some creatures and plants again. And it's going to be a while still before we have another Ruptura event. Oh man, look at that sky. That is just stunning. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Alright, now I think today we are going to head off in that direction. Now the critters are back. I believe the vermin would have respawned by now, so they are out of their caves and we're going to see them in a bit. I'm pretty sure again. We'll see them again today. But for now we are heading over to that side because there are some trees to that side, and I think there are trees to that side as well. We'll have a look and see what we can find. Of course, along the way we are going to be mining a bit and of course harvesting some plants. Now these are star tears, and well, in all honesty, they kind of look like a very weird mixture between two fungi. The first one being the bleeding tooth fungus, and that's because, well, it looks like a tooth that is bleeding. These little droplets you see on here as well, on the star tears, well, you see that on the bleeding tooth fungus as well. But it also kind of resembles, at least the shape, resembles the shaggy mane mushroom or shaggy mane ink cap, or some fungi that occur on termitaria or, termite mounds. Now I did unfortunately just harvest that one, so we'll have to find a new one to have a look at, so we can't have a good look at those weird little globules on it, but hopefully we'll see one in a moment again.
A few moments later.
But I do see another star tier. It's right over there. We're going to have a look at it. Oh, it's right in front here as well. Let's look here at the star tiers that we can see here. So you can see that it's got these little weird root-like structures growing into the rock. I suspect what it is doing is it is probably releasing, and it does seem to be growing into kind of a limestone rock here. It's probably releasing a very strong acid, which will then break the rock apart, releasing some of the nutrients that is fixed in the rock here, allowing the fungus here to actually then obtain it. Now, fungi are decomposers, generally, mostly. Some of them are parasitic, but they don't really grow on rocks like this. Yes, lichens do. A lot of them are rock growing, but they are a combination of fungi and algae. And the algae will photosynthesize. Fungi don't photosynthesize. Now, yes, we are on an alien planet, so maybe it is possible that these ones are able to photosynthesize, but as you can see here, they're not green, they are blue in color. So they most likely don't have chlorophyll, and they wouldn't be able to photosynthesize, at least not in the way that plants on Earth do. So most likely it is simply releasing very strong acid here, breaking down the rock, getting some nutrients in that way, but as for how it gets its energy, that I don't know. Also, water. When it rains, there will most likely be some water accumulating in these little cracks and crevices in the rock here. So maybe the rhizoids or maybe the root-like structures here are able to extract water from the rock in that way, or at least from the puddles that form on the rock. But yeah, let's get back to the globules, these little weird droplets on the fungus here. As I mentioned, bleeding tooth fungi will also get that, and there are a few fungi that actually do this, that actually have these globules forming. I don't think it's sweet, so in this case definitely or almost certainly not sweet, so it's probably not trying to attract anything to actually drink it or to obtain nutrition from it. What it is most likely doing is it has taken up too much water, okay, and it's trying to expel some of that. And the easiest way to do that is then just to form these little droplets on here. And that is most likely what the bleeding tooth fungus will be doing as well. Just expelling excess water from their fungal bodies, from their fruiting bodies. And that is quite cool. I love that. I love the fact that there are these little weird star tiers in the game here that also does that. Right, let's go look for some trees, shall we? Because thus far we haven't seen trees really. We've been walking around the barren wasteland here. We've seen fungi, we've seen shrubs, and we've seen little cycad-like plants, but we haven't really seen any trees. Also, I do need to sort my map out. I do need to obtain a map We'll have a look at that a little bit later. Let's first go look at some trees, shall we? But before we do, what is quite noticeable is that whenever you've got plants, you have certain insects with those plants. And we can see here this little butterfly, or butterfly-like creature at least, flying around here. It most likely has 6 legs. I'm pretty sure it has 6 legs, so it's probably an insect, at least insectoid in shape. But it has these weird little streamers behind it. This is most likely a male butterfly. Another male over there, and what it's doing is it is most likely trying to attract a female by flying around here, displaying these little streamers on its hind wings. There are quite a few butterfly species on Earth that have these little streamers. Swallowtails, for example, will have them, these little appendages on the hind wings, and those appendages are there for a reason. It's first of all attracting the female's attention. Okay, it's grabbing her attention, and secondly, it draws predators' attention. And if you can draw a predator's attention and still remain alive, well, obviously you are most likely genetically fit. So that is why the females are then attracted to the butterflies with those little streamers. But thirdly, it may direct the predator's attention to grab the tail bits there, which can then easily rip off. And the butterfly then actually remains alive, but it has torn little tails in essence. As for which of those 3 explanations is most likely for the butterflies that we saw there, I think it is most likely a way for the males to attract a female's attention. We are under attack from somewhere, I don't know where. They're close. Oh, there we go. There you are. No. Okay. That was self-defense again. I'm not actively looking for them, and in fact there are some over there, some of those little exploders over there. I'm not going to go to them. I'm not going to draw their attention unnecessarily. I am here to try and live in harmony with the creatures on this planet, so I'm not going to go looking for danger. Anyway, as I was saying, those little streamers on the hind wings of those butterfly creatures, most likely to attract the female's attentions. I don't think it is to avoid predation, because usually those streamers are to try and avoid aerial predators, birds for example swooping down to catch them, and well, in all honesty, I haven't seen a single bird. So it's unlikely that it is to draw the attention of predators towards those little streamers, rather than the actual butterfly or its main wings. Interesting that again we've got a few butterflies by different species hanging around the pricklers over here, these little cactus-like fruit over here. Now, what we have here is most likely what we call a lek, or a lek site, which is a territory that is defended by the males in this case, purely for reproductive purposes. Not for any other reason, not because it contains certain resources like water or food, or nesting sites, but purely to attract the attention of the females and to hopefully succeed in mating with them and passing on their genetics. Quite a few birds will have lek sites. Birds of paradise, for example, will have lek sites. A lot of wager birds or wading birds will also have lek sites. And also some butterflies do have lek sites. So it's not weird to see the butterflies here using what we call a lek. This is quite cool actually to see, and rooted in real behavior. Now, something interesting also that I noticed last time, as I made the thumbnail for the previous episode, are these little prickler fruits we see up here. Now, these prickler fruits, the plant itself resembles a cactus with its swollen stem we have here, most likely containing water, so that it is able to regrow after the ruptura. So after the solar rupture has taken place, it will use that water to then produce fruit and to produce, well, it doesn't really produce leaves actually, and that is a good adaptation to have in an arid region. No leaves, okay? Because you will lose water from your leaf surfaces. Leaves are flat things, so they have a large surface area relative to a relatively small volume, and therefore they will lose water quickly, but they can't store water really, unless they are succulent. But that's where the stem comes in here. The stem here is cylindrical, which has a much larger volume relative to its area. It doesn't have any leaves here, and most likely the stem here, I would say, could photosynthesize, but it also doesn't have chlorophyll, so it may actually be parasitic as well, obtaining its energy by most likely parasitizing these little red plants over here. Also, again, not photosynthesizing, but this could, not currently at least, photosynthesizing. Could be that they are getting ready to drop the leaves. Maybe this is also fresh growth and they don't have chlorophyll yet in the leaves, so that's why they appear red. Lots of reasons why they could be red, but I'm rambling. I was actually talking about the fruit here of the prickler. These fruits, oh, when I did the thumbnail, I immediately recognized these fruits. They are the fruit of, on Earth, a real plant. And it's a cucumber that grows naturally in South Africa. It is Cucumis metuliferus. Metuliferus, fera referring to bearing, and metula referring to pyramid. So it's the pyramid-bearing cucumber. It is known as a jelly melon or a horned cucumber, or you may also know it as kivano. Especially in New Zealand, you may know it as kivano. And they start as green little cucumbers, and then as they get riper, they turn this yellow color. And initially they taste like cucumber. By the time you see here, I can actually see some green still there. By the time they are this yellow-orange color, it's far more tropical. It's got more of a banana and papaya undertones there. It becomes sweeter as well. But it has these spines, and if you look very closely, very closely at it, I'm not sure, we can kind of zoom in, but if you look very closely, each of those little spines on the fruit will have a little white tip. That is something we also see with the horned cucumber. And my word, handling these things, yeah, they are spiny. You almost need gloves to handle them. So they will be eaten by animals, and their seeds will be dispersed by those animals. And in fact, they need animals to eat them and disperse their seeds. But yeah, that's a really cool fruit. And I was so surprised to actually realize that those are the fruits that I was looking at when I was making that thumbnail. Anyway, these trees here, they're the reason why I came to this area, because I knew we could find some windswept trees over here. And quite fine leaves, which is important, again, to try and conserve water, because, well, technically these plants are experiencing drought. Every night, in essence, they've got a scorching happening here, which burns them and basically scorches the surface here. So they've got to try and use water as sparingly as possible. They are very quickly able to regrow their leaves, so that is quite amazing. But what is more amazing is that we've got these little grubblers living on them. Little grubs, little insects, most likely the larvae of insects living on these trees here. And they're found only on these trees. You won't find them on any other plant, only on these little windswept trees here. So we've got a group of them over here. We have got some of them over here as well. You can actually spot them from quite a distance away because they're glowy. Even in daytime, they glow. And let's see where there we go. We've got some more over here as well. We are, first of all, under attack. And there we go. There's a little critter. Come on. There are some more coming. And our hydration is also low. So we also just have to make sure we drink something. Yeah, I think that was it. Oh, we are actually really running low. We'll just use... There we go. We'll just use the hydration, the food packets we had. It's easy to get sidetracked when you are talking about awesome critters, like the little grubblers we have over here. So, most likely, the grubblers here are the larvae of, most likely, some flying insect, like a cicada type thing, but also not. You can kind of see some little legs in the front there. And then some false legs or pseudopods on the back there. Very caterpillar-like in appearance, but don't see eyes unless that little globule in front there is actually its single eye. They are actually very alien-looking. Now, being grubs, they are most likely quite rich in protein and fats, so we're going to harvest them. And we are possibly going to eat them. But again, we're not going to harvest all of them. We just harvested from that one tree. We're going to leave these ones, and we're going to leave the ones on the other tree there. They are most likely drinking sap. Although, are they drinking sap? That's the question. A little bit difficult to really see. I don't think... No, we can't see them in... Like there either. No. If they were drinking sap, they'd have little mouth parts going into the bark over here, or through the bark here, to actually access the phloem of the plant. I don't see that. What I do see, however, are markings all over the tree here. I think they're actually eating the inner bark of this tree, exposing the yellowish inner bark, and almost looking resin-like in appearance. I think that's what they're actually feeding on. They're most likely feeding on the inner bark of the trees we see here. But very host-specific. These trees are not toxic to them, but maybe toxic to other insects. And very often you do find that... we are under attack by something. Very often you do find this very close association between invertebrates and certain plants, which they are able to survive on. So very high host specificity. If the host were to disappear from the environment, then those little insects that rely on them will also disappear. And maybe those little insects, maybe those grubblers we see there, are actually incredibly important for other species, like perhaps some of these vermin that are running around here that are most likely going to attack me momentarily. I'm just going to remain crouched. Hopefully they don't see me and hopefully they don't come for me. Now we're just going to slowly sidetrack here a little bit. But I'm afraid that one most likely will head in my direction in a moment. But if the trees disappear, those grubblers disappear, and if those grubblers disappear, the animals eating the grubblers, they will also battle and may also disappear from the area. So if that is the case, if one species results in what we call a cascade of extinctions, in other words, it goes extinct and it results in other species going extinct, which cause other species again going extinct, then that initial species is what we call a keystone species. And I'm pretty sure those trees there, those little windswept trees, are keystone species in this little habitat. It's almost a savanna type habitat. There are grass-like plants there and there are trees there as well. So it's typical savanna-like ecosystem. In fact, later on we will most likely see a bit more of a savanna ecosystem in fact. But not today, not today. That's, I think, behind the mountain over there. We'll see that. But we're not heading there today. Instead, we are just staying around here to, I think, actually, let's collect some serpent root. I think these are called serpent root. Let's have a look here. Because they are very, very cool plants. Let's have a look here. Serpent root indeed. And well, that is where we're going to end today's episode, everybody. So thank you very much for tuning in. The episode got a little bit too long, so I had to cut it into 2 parts. Next week, Tuesday, we are going to carry on and talk about the serpent root we just found. Of course, I'll have another episode of Enshrouded coming out on the Friday. And if you've got any questions in the meantime, please drop them down in the comments below, or any comments you have on what I should be doing next. Until next time, everybody, stay safe. I'll see you all soon. Cheers!